So you were just talking about how, I mean, it is funny how 2,000 books that were written 2,000 years ago are still relevant today because we still haven't got it. And I'm wondering, how do you think we as the human race are doing on our journey to higher consciousness? I mean, we've been taking so long to try and figure it out. Are we developing quickly enough to save ourselves, in your opinion?
Well, that's a good question. The question can be answered on different levels. Let's begin with the good news. That is, let's answer the question from the highest level of understanding and of reality. And from that highest level of understanding, we are already saved. Every human being is already saved. Now, what does that mean? It means the essence of every human being is formless, indestructible, and eternal. So the essence of who you are, and again, it's not something to believe in, it's something to realize for yourself. This connects with the first question. This is not something to believe in, not a set of beliefs. I believe that I am eternal. That's not enough. It's a realization within yourself of that level of the timeless and the formless. And so this is quite a relief to know that ultimately, as the Course in Miracles puts it, at the very beginning, I don't know, many of the listeners may be familiar with the Course in Miracles. Some may like it, some may not like it. It's not for everybody, and that's fine. But the Course in Miracles is summarized at the very beginning in two sentences or three sentences, and it says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And so it said, if you understand those three brief sentences deeply within yourself, then you don't need to study the Course in Miracles, of course, or any other spiritual teaching. So essentially then, when I say we are already saved, it means that we are all emanations of the one, temporary emanations appearing in form of an underlying oneness, the one formless, timeless life. We could call it God, but because that word has such a heavy history and has been misused so much, I usually avoid the word God, but sometimes I still use it. As long as it doesn't bring up the image in people's minds of a man sitting on a cloud with a beard. God is the formless one life out of which all forms of life emerge. So you and God are not two. You are essentially one with that one timeless, eternal life. Life itself, you could call it, or consciousness itself, the formless, that which underlies and pervades all forms. So on that level, then, there's nothing to worry about, because no matter what happens on the level of form, essentially, death is an illusion, because death is no more than the dissolution of form. And so, good, now that we have settled that, we don't need to go into a panic and say, oh, the world situation is so dreadful, it's all going to collapse, and even if it does, in absolute terms, it doesn't matter, because consciousness is evolving in this universe through countless avenues, through countless forms. That's where the universe is an expression of the evolution of consciousness. And no matter where you go in the universe, I haven't traveled there, but I'm sure no matter where you go, even to other galaxies, you will see that there is an evolution happening of forms arising and forms becoming more conscious of the source. The universe itself is becoming more conscious. So when a human being becomes more conscious, then really what's happening is the universe or life or God is becoming more conscious through you. So, and some people say, well, that's sacrilege. God does not need to become more conscious. Well, in the timeless, God is already complete and fulfilled. There's no change in that ultimate reality. But somehow this ultimate reality is flowing into the world of form, creating forms for some reason. I don't know whether anybody can understand the ultimate reason why it's doing that, but it's what it's doing. And we are part of that unfoldment of evolution on the level of form. And even if certain forms become destroyed, evolution will seek other avenues. The evolution of consciousness will flow into other channels. But no gain in consciousness is ever lost. So that's good then. So how are we doing on a not from the ultimate level of understanding, from a lower level of understanding, what's going to happen to human civilization? Now, I usually don't predict things, but what we do know, of course, is that we are faced with a multitude of seemingly insurmountable problems. There's the problem of the destruction of the environment or global warming. There's the problem of overpopulation. There's the problem of nuclear weapons proliferation despite treaties and so on, the continuing and growing danger of that. Ultimately, it could happen that a certain country will begin to use them. There's the problem of institutions that are dysfunctional and are about to collapse. I mentioned one of the few predictions I make in the New Earth is say that many of the institutions and that we have created, whether it's government or economy or social institutions, many of them, because they've come out of that old egoic consciousness or unconsciousness, are going to dissolve. So, and then a little later the financial collapse happened, and of course the financial, this is just one example of the things that are, as we are going through this period of intense change, many of the structures are going to dissolve because the structures are old. They cannot be vehicles for the arising, awakening consciousness in human beings. So when a structure cannot be a vehicle, it cannot accommodate the new energy, then the structure collapses. The prime example of that is a huge collapse that happened when Soviet communism collapsed. Nobody predicted it. Nobody predicted that it would happen so quickly. The system seemed totally solid, as if it was going to last at least 1,000 years. It was immobile, it was heavy and solid, and yet within a few years it dissolved. The financial markets, everything looked so solid. The banks and so on, people invested their money, and then they sought out what's the most solid place that I can think of where I can invest my money. What's the water? What's more solid than ice? Let's put it into Iceland. And then the whole country, the whole financial sector, the whole country collapsed. So there's nothing solid anymore. It's an illusion if you think there's still something solid. And that is the cause of fear for many people.